The colony of Havenreach was a place that felt almost like a dream, far away from the wars and dangers of the galaxy. Green fields stretched across the land, rivers ran through valleys, and children played without fear. Families built their homes with the hope of living in peace. Daniel Carter, a farmer with strong hands and a calm voice, would often walk with his daughter through the fields, pointing out the stars above and telling her about the vast universe. Laura Bennett, a teacher in the colony, taught the young ones about Earth, about history, and about the importance of building a future together. Havenreach was a symbol of humanity's hope, and no one believed it could ever fall. But hope is fragile when enemies lurk in the dark. The people of Havenreach trusted that the fleets of Earth were far stronger than any alien race. They believed no one would dare touch them because they were human, and humans had spread across the stars. Yet in the silence of deep space, an alien armada moved with deadly purpose. Their ships, black and sharp, cut through the void without mercy. They did not send warnings or demands. They came for destruction. On the night it began, the sky above Havenreach turned bright with falling fire. The first colonists who saw the streaks thought they were meteors. Children pointed and laughed, shouting for their parents to look. But when the fire grew larger, and when the ground began to shake from the shock of explosions in the upper atmosphere, fear replaced laughter. Towers of flame erupted as alien plasma cannons tore through the colony's defenses. No alarms had time to sound. Communication towers were the first to be destroyed. Daniel Carter grabbed his daughter and ran for the underground shelters, but the shelters were already crumbling. Laura Bennett tried to gather her students, shouting for them to stay close, but the blast of an explosion threw her against the ground. The aliens struck without hesitation. Their warships hovered above like shadows of death, raining fire until buildings collapsed and entire streets burned. The colony's militia fought bravely, but their small ships were no match for the alien fleet. Pilots took off from hidden hangars, charging into the sky with courage, but most were torn apart within minutes. Their screams echoed over the short-range channels, cut off as plasma bolts ripped through their hulls. From orbit, the colonies. Cities looked like sparks fading in a firestorm. People ran through the smoke-filled streets, searching for their families. Mothers clutched their children. Fathers tried to fight with old rifles and pistols, knowing they had no chance. The alien soldiers that landed were merciless. They burned homes, slaughtered anyone in their path, and left nothing behind. Havenreach's beauty became ash. Only a few voices reached the stars. A desperate engineer managed to send a broken signal before his station was destroyed. Havenreach, under attack. Millions gone. The message was scattered, weak, but it carried across the void. Somewhere in the distant heart of human space, receivers picked up the faint call for help. By then, it was already too late. When the fires finally stopped, there was nothing left of Havenreach. Entire families were gone. The fields, once green and alive, were blackened and silent. Ships that had carried food and supplies lay in ruins, twisted metal sinking into the earth. The smell of smoke and death covered the air. The aliens did not stay to claim the land. They left it in ruins, sending a clear message. Humanity was not untouchable above the broken world. The few survivors hiding in caves or under rubble could only whisper through tears. They knew no one had come to save them in time. They knew that the colony had fallen, and their voices would be remembered only if someone heard the cry of Havenreach. That night, a place once filled with laughter and light was gone forever. But in the silence, in the ash, something began to grow. It was not hope, but fury. The story of Havenreach would not end with its destruction. It would spread, and with it, the promise of vengeance. For the first time, humanity had lost a world to an alien strike. and for the first time, humanity would rise in wrath. The news of Havenreach spread like wildfire across the colonies and finally reached Earth. At first, many did not believe it. How could a peaceful human colony be wiped out so quickly? People thought the distress call was a mistake, or maybe a cruel trick. But when the full images arrived, when satellites confirmed the blackened fields and ruined cities, the truth sank in. Havenreach was gone, and millions of men, women, and children were dead. The shock was unlike anything humanity had faced in centuries. On Earth, crowds filled the streets, holding pictures of lost families and demanding answers. In the colonies, miners, farmers, and engineers put down their tools and stood together in grief and rage. Children cried for parents who would never come home, and parents wept for children who would never grow up. Humanity spread across the stars, suddenly felt united by pain. In the great halls of military command, officers stood in silence around holomaps of Havenreach. Admiral Jason Cole, a man known for his calm in war, clenched his fists as he watched the recordings. The alien ships had struck fast, without mercy, and left before any fleet could arrive. Beside him, Commodore Evelyn. Brooks whispered, "They wanted us to see this. They wanted to show us we are weak." Her words cut like a blade, and no one could deny them. In the halls of government, leaders argued for hours. Some wanted peace talks, hoping to avoid a greater war. Others wanted to build stronger defenses and wait. But the voices of the people were louder than the arguments of politicians. Across Earth's cities, the message was the same. We demand vengeance. Mothers who had lost their children stood before cameras, screaming for justice. Fathers demanded that the military act. The people would not accept silence. News channels replayed the burning of Havenreach again and again. Children hiding in rubble, soldiers firing hopelessly into the sky, and families running as flames consumed their homes. Every broadcast reminded humanity of what had been stolen from them. The image of the ruined colony became a scar on every heart. In the quiet moments, soldiers across the fleets began to send messages to each other. Men and women who had never met before shared their anger and grief. They promised that they would not let this crime go unpunished. They promised that one day the aliens would know fear. The death of Havenreach was not just a tragedy, it was a call to arms. Admiral Cole met with the High Council and spoke with a voice steady but filled with fire. If we do nothing, they will strike again. If we hesitate, more of our children will burn. But if we rise now, if we stand united, we will make them regret the day they touched a human world. His words spread beyond the council. Soon, they reached the ears of miners on Mars, traders on the moons of Jupiter, and colonists on far-off worlds. His call became their own. Families volunteered their ships. Old freighters were turned into supply carriers. Engineers began sketching designs for new weapons. Factories that once built tools for farming switched overnight to forging armor plates and missile launchers. Humanity had been shaken, but the shaking awoke something fierce inside them. Commodore Brooks visited the families of Havenreach survivors. She listened to their pain, and she swore that their voices would be heard. She told them, "Your loved ones will not be forgotten. Their memory will become the flame that guides our vengeance." And in those broken homes, hope flickered again, not the soft hope of peace, but the sharp hope of retribution. Across the stars, whispers turned into a roar. Havenreach became the name on every tongue. Children drew its fields and schools, and then marked them with fire, saying they would grow up to fight. Artists painted the colony's burning skies, not as a warning, but as a promise. This would never happen again by the end of that week. The people of Earth and its colonies had spoken louder than any council. They no longer begged their leaders for protection. They demanded war. The destruction of one colony had united billions. Humanity, once divided by distance and politics, now shared one heartbeat. That heartbeat was rage that the alien armada thought Havenreach's death would bring: fear and silence. Instead, it gave birth to something far more dangerous. The cry for vengeance had spread from one ruined world to the entire human race. And somewhere deep in the heart of space, the first whispers of a name began to form the name that would soon terrify the galaxy: the Vengeance Armada. Factories across the colonies began to roar with new life, their smokestacks pouring fire into the skies as workers pushed day and night to build what humanity now demanded: warships. The call to arms had spread across every settlement and station, and people answered with a unity the galaxy had never seen. The shipyards above Mars glowed as bright as the sun, assembling the massive skeletons of dreadnoughts. In the rings of Saturn, engineers worked in zero gravity, welding new cruisers, together like craftsmen building monuments. Even the small colonies with limited resources offered everything they had: metal, fuel, and volunteers. Admiral Jason Cole stood in the command deck of Earth's military headquarters, staring at the endless requests coming in. Families wanted to enlist, pilots wanted to fly. Veterans long retired sent messages begging to be reinstated. Humanity had always been spread thin across the stars, but now it moved as one force, all driven by the memory of Havenreach. The destruction of the colony had become a fire that no one could put out. Captain Samuel Grant was one of the first to step forward. He had commanded warships before, but had retired to live peacefully with his family. When news of Havenreach reached him, he left everything behind without hesitation. "I've buried friends before," he told Admiral Cole. "I will not bury." Another colony. At his side was Commander Olivia Hayes, a sharp strategist who had once been feared for her cold, calculating decisions. Now her eyes burned with something deeper: vengeance. She accepted command of a new strike group, swearing that she would make the enemy pay. In the massive orbital dockyards, the sight was both terrifying and beautiful. Hundreds of ships lined up in formation, each one armed with rail cannons, plasma, lances, and missile batteries. Carriers large enough to hold entire squadrons of fighters floated like titans, waiting for their crews. Frigates, fast and agile, received new engines built for deadly ambushes. Every hull was painted black and widely spaced. Every hull was painted black and wisely spears. Every splash log's last sister that glides on smoothly, and lively slash long-lasting color. Wildly slash flast, fice K's fast, and slash fies, slosh flies, my lass. Why slast e, my lie? By recede, my lies I know, they see the dow of lies of lad. Why they slad? But I sighed by why we sigh it steta with our why I sat it, kai worse I lied it's kai kakas sakets be sikuk ags less at it's iketikepa the reset makuda it's it to steel gray, with insignias of the colonies and Earth carved proudly onto their sides. These were not just machines of war, they were symbols of humanity's fury. Families, who could not fight, still found ways to contribute. Children collected scrap metal for the forges. Women and men sewed uniforms. Old freighters were stripped down, rebuilt into supply ships to carry fuel and ammunition to the front lines. Humanity had never built so quickly, never prepared so fiercely. The aliens thought they had destroyed one world, but in truth, they had awakened the power of 100. Training fields filled with recruits. Young men and women, many who had never even left their homeworlds, learned to march, to fight, and to pilot starfighters. The training was brutal, but the anger in their hearts pushed them beyond their limits. Veterans taught them not just how to fire weapons, but why they were fighting. "Remember Havenreach?" the instructor shouted. "Every bullet, Every strike is for them. The first completed ships were tested near Titan. When the engines roared to life, the stars seemed to tremble. Civilians gathered on observation decks to watch the warships leave their docks, cheering and weeping as the fleet stretched its wings. The sound of the launches was broadcast across every human settlement. Entire crowds stood together in silence, listening, as if the roar of engines was the voice of vengeance itself. Admiral Cole named the new fleet with words that carried across every world. "We will not run. We will not hide. This armada is our answer." This is the Vengeance Armada. The name burned into the hearts of all who heard it. But even in the unity, there was fear. Families knew that not everyone who left would return. Mothers hugged their sons before they boarded transports, whispering that they must come back. Children clung to their fathers' uniforms, refusing to let go. The cost of war was already being felt, but no one dared to step back. Humanity had crossed a line. There was no return. Captain Grant walked through the corridors of his new battleship, the ironclad touching the steel walls with a soldier's respect. "You are going to carry us to war," he murmured. Commander Hayes stood beside him, watching. The crew moved with determination. "They're ready," she said quietly. "They want blood." Grant nodded, his jaw set. "Then blood they'll have." As the weeks passed, the Armada grew larger. Carriers from Earth, frigates from Mars, destroyers from Jupiter's moons all gathered together under one banner. It was not just a fleet. It was the living soul of humanity's wrath, a storm ready to break upon the galaxy. The aliens thought Havenreach was the end, but in reality, it was the beginning. Humanity had been scattered before, living peacefully, but now every man, woman, and child carried the memory of fire in their hearts. The Armada was not built only of ships. It was built of grief, of fury, of an unshakable will. And when it was ready, the galaxy would learn a truth written in steel. Destroying one human colony was their doom. For the Vengeance Armada was rising, and nothing would stop it. The Vengeance Armada had been built faster than anyone thought possible. But a fleet is nothing until it tastes battle. The first real test came when scouts reported alien raiders moving along a human trade route near the Perseus cluster. Civilian transports had already gone missing. Merchant crews sent final messages saying they were under attack, then silence. The cries reached the Armada, and Admiral Jason Cole knew this was the moment to show the galaxy that humanity was no longer weak. Orders were given, and the fleet shifted its course. The faster frigates went first, their sleek forms cutting through the void like hunting wolves. Among them were the Horizon and the Dawnstrike, two ships with young crews eager to prove themselves. Captain Samuel Grant watched from the bridge of the ironclad as the smaller ships raced ahead. He felt the tension in his crew, men and women holding their breath as the battle approached. Every sailor remembered Havenreach, and now they would have their chance to strike back. The first contact came in the silence of deep space. Alien raiders appeared on sensors, hunting in small packs of 6 or 7 ships. Their hulls twisted and sharp, like predators born for slaughter. They thought they had found easy prey once again. The Horizon broadcasted a faint distress signal, pretending to be a civilian vessel caught alone. The trap was set. The aliens moved quickly, closing in with weapons charged. But the moment they entered range, the Horizon and the Dawnstrike unleashed their fury. Rail cannons fired bright streaks of light across the void, tearing through alien hulls. Plasma lances followed, slicing enemy ships apart in blinding flashes. The aliens screamed across their channels, calling for reinforcements, but by then, the Armada was already arriving. Carriers emerged from warp space, their hangars opening like the wings of great beasts. Squadrons of human fighters poured out, engines roaring as they formed deadly swarms. The Resolute, A massive carrier under Captain Daniel Ford released more fighters than the aliens had ever seen before. The sky filled with human firepower. Missiles streaked like falling stars, finding their targets with merciless precision. The battle turned fast into chaos. Alien ships scattered, but the Armada had studied their patterns. Commander Olivia Hayes directed the destroyer groups with calm but deadly efficiency. "Cut off their retreat. Box them in," she ordered. Her destroyers moved like knives, slicing into the enemy's escape routes, forcing them back into the killing field. The aliens tried to form a defensive wall, but the firepower of the human fleet shattered it within minutes. For the first time since Haven Reach, human crews felt the taste of victory. On every ship, the crew shouted as alien vessels exploded one by one. The dawn strike tore an enemy raider in half with a broadside volley. The Horizon's captain laughed through tears as his ship's guns sent another burning into pieces. Even the youngest recruits, hands trembling at their stations, realized they were not weak. They were warriors, and their weapons spoke louder than fear. But the battle was not without cost. Alien fighters swarmed into the Armada, and several human ships suffered. The frigate Liberty took heavy damage, flames ripping through its decks. Dozens of sailors were lost before it managed to limp back under escort. The destroyer Guardian was struck by an enemy torpedo. Its engines shattered, forcing the crew to abandon ship. Their escape pods drifted among the stars until carriers picked them up. The price was painful, but compared to Haven Reach, it was nothing. Humanity was not broken this time. They had fought back. As the last alien ship tried to flee, the Invictus, the pride of the Armada, turned its massive guns. With one thunderous shot, it reduced the vessel to dust. Silence followed, broken only by the cheers of thousands of human voices carried across the fleet's channels. For once, its silence of space was filled with triumph. The few alien survivors that managed to escape carried a story with them. They returned to their homeworlds with tales of humans who fought like gods, who turned their grief into fire, who built ships that moved with deadly unity. Fear began to spread among their commanders, for the enemy had thought humans soft and weak. Now they saw a race that refused to kneel. When the battle ended, the Armada gathered its damaged ships and tended to its wounded. Admiral Cole addressed the fleet, his voice steady and clear. "This is only the beginning. Haven Reach is not forgotten. Today we showed them that humanity will not be prey. Tomorrow we will bring the war to their doorstep." His words lit every heart like flame. Across Earth and the colonies, the victory was celebrated as if a new dawn had risen. Crowds cheered when the broadcasts came in, and families wept with pride instead of sorrow. For the first time since the tragedy, there was hope, not the soft hope of peace, but the fierce hope of vengeance. Humanity had struck back, and the galaxy would never forget it. Would you like me to move on and expand? Part 5, into the same 800-word, detailed style. The victory near the Perseus cluster gave the Vengeance Armada its first taste of triumph. But it was only the beginning. The enemy was not broken yet. Scouts soon reported larger alien fleets gathering in the deep territories beyond known human space. Admiral Jason Cole understood what this meant. The aliens were preparing to strike back, to push humanity into fear again. But he had no intention of waiting for their attack. The Armada would carry the war straight into the heart of alien space. The order was given, and the Armada pressed forward. Ships leaped from system to system, engines blazing as they crossed into hostile territory. Human fleets had always fought close to their colonies. But now, for the first time, they went deep into the abyss, far beyond any safe line. Each jump took them further into enemy skies, where no human had ever dared to travel. The crews knew the risk, but none of them hesitated. Every sailor, every pilot, carried the memory of Havenreach in their hearts. And vengeance pushed them forward. Captain Daniel Ford, commander of the carrier Resolute, led one of the forward groups. His ship was massive, filled with fighter squadrons that had already proven their worth in the last battle. "Keep your eyes sharp," he told his pilots. "The deeper we go, the harder they'll fight." His voice carried calm authority, but inside he felt the same fire as his crew. He had lost his brother on Havenreach, and every time he looked at the stars, he swore to make the enemy bleed for it. Beside the Resolute flew destroyer squadrons led by Lieutenant Maria Collins. Her ships were smaller, but deadly, built to shield. The carriers and strike quickly at enemy formations. Collins was young, almost too young to be commanding a squadron, but war had no patience for age. Her crew trusted her, and she never failed to throw herself into the fight with courage that inspired everyone around her. "Stay close, stay fast," she told her squadron. "We hit them hard and move before they can pin us down." The first outposts they found were small. Alien refueling stations, mining bases, and hidden shipyards scattered across the void. The Armada struck with precision. Human frigates would slip in first, disabling communications. Then the carriers unleashed fighters, while cruisers rained down orbital fire. Within hours, entire alien installations were turned into smoldering wreckage. Some aliens tried to flee, but the destroyers hunted them like wolves, leaving no escape. Every battle hardened the Armada. Crews grew sharper, faster, more ruthless. They learned the enemy's tactics, adapted to their formations, and found their weaknesses. Where once alien swarms might have overwhelmed them, now human ships cut through those swarms with practiced fury. Humanity had always been quick learners, and now that trait became their deadliest weapon. But the war was not without cost. In one ambush, alien forces used gravity mines to trap several human cruisers near a dead star. The cruiser Sentinel fought to the last, its guns blazing until its hull tore apart under enemy fire. Hundreds of crew members were lost, and the silence that followed weighed heavily on the fleet. Admiral Cole himself sent a message to the families of those who had fallen. "They died not in retreat, but in defiance," he said. "Their sacrifice drives us forward." The word spread, and though the pain remained, the determination grew stronger. The deeper the Armada pushed, the more fear spread among the aliens. Civilian populations fled their colonies before the humans even arrived. Entire worlds were abandoned, their skies filled with ghostly silence. Rumors raced through alien command centers, telling of humans who came like storms, who burned everything in their path, who fought with a fury no empire could match. Still, the aliens tried to resist. They gathered larger fleets, hoping to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. But every time, the Armada adapted. When swarms came in close, destroyers formed tight shields, protecting the carriers until fighters tore the enemy apart. When alien heavy cruisers tried to stand against the dreadnought, Invictus, its cannons blasted them into ash. Every battle left wreckage drifting in space, a graveyard of ships that told the story of humanity's advance. For Captain Ford, every victory was personal. On the bridge of the Resolute, he watched as alien outposts burned. He whispered his brother's name each time, a silent promise that the dead were not forgotten. For Lieutenant Collins, every loss of a comrade made her fiercer. "They think they can scare us," she told her crew after one brutal fight. "Let them try. We'll show them what fear really means." Weeks turned into months, and the Armada carved a path of fire deeper and deeper into alien space. The galaxy began to tremble. Other races, watching from afar, whispered of humanity's wrath. They had seen wars before, but never a vengeance so relentless. The Armada was not fighting for conquest, not for riches, but for justice born from blood, that made them unstoppable by the time the Armada reached the outer defenses of the alien heartlands. The enemy's pride was gone. They no longer looked like predators. They looked like prey. And humanity was closing in, ready to deliver the final blow. The Armada's campaign had burned through dozens of alien outposts and colonies, but the enemy was not finished yet. Word came from scouts that the largest alien fleet ever seen was gathering near the Nibiru's Rift. It was a dark place in space, filled with broken asteroids and dead moons, the perfect ground for a final trap. The aliens wanted one massive battle to crush the humans once and for all. If they won there, the Vengeance Armada would be broken, and humanity would crawl back to its colonies in fear. Admiral Jason Cole studied the reports with cold eyes. The alien fleet was huge, thousands of ships, more than the Armada had ever faced. Even his commanders hesitated, whispering about the danger. But Cole was not shaken. He had expected this. He knew the enemy would try to gather everything they had for one desperate strike, and he had been waiting for it. "This is where we end them," he said, his voice steady. "They believe the rift will be our grave. Instead, it will be theirs." The Armada prepared for war like never before. Every gun was cleaned, every missile loaded, every ship checked twice over. The crews knew the scale of what was coming. For many, this battle would be their last, yet no one stepped back. From the smallest frigate to the largest dreadnought, the message was the same. Haven Reach must be avenged. When the Armada arrived at the rift, the enemy was waiting. Alien ships filled the void like a storm, their lines stretching across the stars. War drums thundered in the minds of their soldiers, and their commanders were certain of victory. They had chosen the rift because of its hazards. The broken asteroids would block human maneuvers. The unstable gravity wells would trap ships. They believed they had every advantage. But Admiral Cole had studied the rift for weeks before moving. He knew its dangers, and he knew how to use them. Instead of charging head-on, he ordered the Armada to split. Human fleets emerged from warp space, not in one line, but in 3 directions, peering at the edges of the rift like hunters surrounding their prey. The aliens panicked as their neat wall of ships suddenly faced fire from multiple angles. The battle began with an explosion of light. Human cruisers fired the first volleys, rail cannons streaking through the void and smashing into alien frigates. Carriers opened their bays, releasing thousands of fighters that darted into the rift like angry hornets. The aliens answered with plasma storms, beams of green fire cutting through the dark, tearing several human ships apart in the opening minutes. The sky filled with wreckage and flame, and the rift became a graveyard. In the middle of the chaos, Captain Samuel Grant commanded the ironclad with fearless resolve. His ship pushed forward, its broadside guns tearing into alien cruisers. Commander Olivia Hayes directed the destroyer squadrons, weaving them through the asteroid fields to strike. From behind, "Cut their formation in half," she ordered, and her ships moved with deadly precision, driving straight into the enemy's heart. The aliens fought back fiercely. Swarms of small attack craft overwhelmed human frigates, and entire squadrons of fighters were lost. The destroyer Valor was ripped apart when 3 enemy torpedoes struck its core. The carrier Resolute nearly fell when alien bombers swarmed its hull. But Lieutenant Maria Collins led her squadron through the chaos, blasting the attackers away at the last moment. The cost was high, but the Armada refused to break. Then the Invictus entered the center of the fight. The massive dreadnought, larger than any other ship in the fleet, moved forward like a titan of steel. Its guns glowed bright, and when it fired, the sound shook every human ship. One by one, alien flagships fell under its firepower. The Invictus took hits that would have destroyed smaller ships, but it pressed forward, unstoppable, carving a path of destruction straight toward the enemy command vessel. Admiral Cole knew this was the moment. All ships, focus fire. He commanded. Missiles streaked across the rift, beams of light tore through the dark. And the alien flagship shields cracked under the storm. In one final strike, the Invictus fired its main cannon. And the alien flagship exploded in a blast so bright it lit the rift like a new sun. For a moment, even the chaos fell silent. The enemy tried to fight on, but without their command, their lines broke. Human ships pressed the attack from all sides, driving them back, burning their formations apart. Alien vessels fled into the rift, but many were trapped by the same gravity wells they had hoped to use against the humans. Human destroyers hunted the stragglers, their guns finishing what the dreadnoughts had begun. When the battle was finally over, the Nibiru's rift was filled with wreckage. Thousands of alien ships floated, broken and silent, their empire's pride reduced to ashes. Humanity had suffered as well, hundreds of ships lost, countless crew members gone, but the Armada still stood. The enemy's greatest fleet had been destroyed. On the bridge of the ironclad, Captain Grant looked out at the drifting ruins and whispered, "Havenreach, this was for you." Commander Hayes, blood on her uniform, sat in silence, staring at the stars. Across the fleet, cheers and tears mixed as survivors realized what they had done. They had not only survived the trap, they had won. The great clash at the Nibiru's rift became a turning point. Humanity had faced the full might of its enemy and shattered it. From that moment on, the galaxy no longer saw humans as victims. They saw them as warriors who could not be broken no matter the cost. The great clash at the Nibiru's rift had ended in fire and silence. The alien fleet, once proud and feared, was gone. Only broken hulls and drifting wreckage remained in the rift. Humanity had lost many ships too, and thousands of sailors never returned, but the Armada still stood. For the first time, the path to the enemy's heart was clear. Admiral Jason Cole gathered his commanders and spoke in a voice steady and sharp. Their fleets are broken. Their defenses are weak. We go for the homeworld. No retreat, no hesitation. This is the end. The fleet moved like a storm across the stars. Dreadnoughts, carriers, cruisers, and destroyers all gathered in formation, their engines blazing as they crossed into the deepest part of alien space. They passed through ruined colonies and abandoned stations, each one left in panic by the enemy. Fear had spread like a plague. Wherever humans appeared, the aliens fled. The Armada carried with it not just firepower, but the weight of vengeance. And the enemy knew it. Finally, the alien homeworld came into view. It was a massive planet covered in glittering cities, towers stretching toward the clouds, shipyards hanging in orbit, and countless military stations. For centuries, it had been untouchable, the proud heart of an empire. Now, for the first time in history, human warships surrounded it like hunters closing in on prey. The alien leaders sent desperate calls to their people, promising victory. But even their own soldiers felt the truth in their bones. The humans had come, and nothing would stop them. Admiral Cole ordered the bombardment to begin. The first wave of missiles streaked through the skies, glowing like falling stars. They struck shipyards, tearing them apart in bursts of fire. Human rail cannons followed, hurling rounds that ripped through orbital stations. The alien defense fleet rose to fight, but it was no match. Human carriers opened their bays, and swarms of fighters poured out, diving into the alien skies. The battle for the homeworld had begun. In the thick of the fight was Captain Laura Bennett, commander of the Valkyrie. She had lost her entire family on Havenreach, and since that day, her heart had carried nothing but grief and fire. Now, staring at the alien capital from her ship's bridge, she felt that grief twist into determination. "Target their shield generator," she ordered. "We bring it down, and the rest will fall." Her crew answered with a roar, ready to follow her into the fire. The Valkyrie led the charge, weaving through enemy fire as destroyers and cruisers shielded its path. Alien warships tried to block them, but the Armada's guns opened a path, blasting them into wreckage. Laura's ship drew closer to the massive planetary shield that protected the alien capital. Energy crackled across its surface like a burning wall. For centuries, it had never been broken. Today, it would fall. All batteries, fire, Laura shouted. The Valkyrie unleashed a storm of missiles and plasma bolts. Other human ships joined in, hammering the shield with everything they had. The sky lit up with explosions, waves of energy rippling across the barrier. At first, it held, glowing brighter with every impact. But then the cracks began. Small at first, like lightning spreading across glass, and then larger. Until the shield trembled. The aliens screamed across their channels, begging their commanders for orders, but panic spread faster than courage. Admiral Cole gave the final command. Break it. The Invictus, the dreadnought that had destroyed the alien flagship at Nibiru's Rift, fired its main cannon. The beam tore through space like a spear of fire, slamming into the shield. With a thunderous crack, the shield shattered. The capital was exposed. What followed was fire without mercy. Human ships unleashed bombardments against the alien military hubs, shipyards, and command centers. Towers crumbled. Shipyards fell from the skies burning as they crashed into the oceans. The once proud capital, glowing with lights, turned into a storm of smoke and flame. Fighters flew low, striking at enemy artillery, while dreadnoughts in orbit reduced entire districts to rubble. Through it all, Captain Laura Bennett never blinked. Her voice was steady as she gave orders. The Valkyrie fired the salvo that destroyed the last defense tower, leaving the capital helpless. Her crew watched in silence as the flames rose higher, and one whispered, "For Haven Reach." The words spread across every channel, and soon thousands of voices echoed them. The vengeance of humanity was complete. The alien leaders tried to flee, but the Armada cut off every escape route. Their command centers fell. Their fleets were destroyed, and their capital burned until the night sky glowed red. The cries of vengeance whispered across humanity since the fall of Haven Reach now thundered in the smoke of the alien homeworld. When the bombardment finally stopped, silence hung in the void. The enemy's heart was broken. Their empire, once feared across the stars, lay in ruins. Humanity had taken its revenge. On the bridge of the Valkyrie, Laura stood tall, though her eyes were filled with tears. She thought of her family, of the green fields of Haven Reach, now lost forever. "It's done," she whispered. "They're avenged." Across the fleet, men and women wept, shouted, and embraced, knowing that their long journey of fury had reached its end. The homeworld of the enemy burned behind them, and the galaxy watched in shock. Humanity, once underestimated, had risen in vengeance, and no one would ever forget it.